Authidase emanates a host of monstrous powers, including a lion-faced manifestation of Yaldabaoth. Okay, so when ancient Gnostic mystics tried to map out the underlying architecture of reality, they described the creator of the physical world as this localized, arrogant, lion-faced deity. Now, that sounds like a heavy metaphor, right? But what if they weren't being metaphorical at all? What if they were literally, mechanically describing that little feline currently asleep on your couch?
Welcome to this explainer. Today we are doing a complete tech teardown of the domestic house cat, or as we're calling it, cat.exe. We're going to look at this creature not as your fluffy little pet, but as a highly engineered, 12-dimensional biological modem. We're going to dig into the exact physics, the ancient cosmology, and the physical hardware that strongly suggests cats are localized source nodes, just hiding right there in plain sight.
So, here is our system diagnostics checklist for today. We'll be covering 1. The lion-faced engine. 2. The Vesica Piscis mirror gate. 3. Seeing the Xerox event. 4. The 9-to-6 inversion. 5. Multiverse whiskers. And finally, 6. The feline furious point. Let's dive right in.
Section 1. The lion-faced rendering engine, translating macro myth to micro meat.
In Gnostic cosmology, the material world is run by the demiurge, known as Yaldabaoth. He's the local renderer of the 3D world. He's boastful, he demands worship, and he is laser-focused on his own local sovereignty. And, crucially, the ancient texts say he manifests with a lion face. The framework we are exploring today posits that this description perfectly matches the domestic cat. I mean, they act like the administrators of reality, basically because structurally they are. And they enforce this worship through what's known as an honest trade. Think about it. They use a literal biological love spell, a bacteria called toxoplasmosis, to essentially hack human brains into adoring them. It's wild, but that's exactly why we happily scoop their litter boxes.
Moving on to Section 2. Vesica Piscis mirror gate, the hardware of the D6/D7 threshold. You know that iconic vertical slit pupil cats have? Technically, that's called a Vesica Piscis pupil. Standard biology will just tell you it's a cool optical filter for hunting, but in this 12-dimensional audit, it's way more than that. It is actually a highly sophisticated biological manifestation of the multidimensional mirror gate. In the cosmic geometry we're examining, the exact boundary between Dimension 6 and Dimension 7 is this mirror gate. It's the mechanical clutch where the universe's outward expansion hits the brakes and inward reflection begins. It's the cosmic turnaround point. And the cat's eye? It is physically built to straddle that exact threshold. To really grasp how powerful this hardware is, let's compare it to human vision. Our eye lenses are heavily filtered. They actively block out ultraviolet light so we can get sharp, high spatial acuity. We like seeing crisp edges. Feline lenses do the exact opposite. Their lenses let raw UVA light, right around the 340 nanometer mark, pour directly onto their retinas. They completely sacrifice visual sharpness past about 20 feet just to allow these hidden short wavelength frequencies to flood into their optical render. Section 3. Seeing the Xerox event, the DMT laser analogy.
All right, our source material essentially asks us to toss the Big Bang Theory right out the window. Instead, we have the Xerox event. Imagine a zero-dimensional point spinning infinitely fast until it centrifugally shatters. But because it has no actual dimensions or parts, it can't break into physical debris. So instead, it acts like a giant cosmic printer. It endlessly ejects infinite, identical, holographic copies of itself. The vastness of space isn't actually empty. It's really just a timing delay, a phase offset between infinite overlapping copies flashing in and out of existence. And this brilliantly explains why your cat stares at absolutely nothing for 20 minutes. Since their eyes don't filter out UV light, their retinas are actually capturing the out-of-sync strobe flashes of those phase-offset cosmic shards. So, what you and I perceive as a blank, boring corner of the room, your cat sees as the flashing, unlit standing wave code of the universe. When veterinary science says a cat is engaging in hallucinatory play with invisible objects, well, they aren't hallucinating. They're literally interacting with overlapping multiversal data that our filtered human hardware just cannot render.
Let's hit Section 4, the 9-to-6 inversion, kinetic torque, and the black hole bell.
In the 12-dimensional toroidal engine, the mathematical volume of our localized reality, which the texts call the soul room, resolves to the number 1968. Now, if you add those digits up, 1 plus 9 plus 6 plus 8, you get 24. And 2 plus 4 equals 6. In vortex math, this is a massive deal. You see, the number 9 represents absolute perfect stillness, the source. But the number 6? That represents pure kinetic motion, friction, and unstable torque. Our physical room mathematically refuses to just settle into stillness. It absolutely requires the violent torque of the 6 to keep the whole cosmic engine running.
Now map this mathematical tension directly onto your cat's daily routine. Cats sleep, on average, about 16 hours a day. Through this superpower of feline meditation, they are mathematically anchoring the 9. They enter this state of absolute deep stillness to perform a phase alignment audit. They literally have to stay plugged into the source to build up their biological battery. Then, they wake up and they invert. They unleash the violent, ringing friction of the 6 during that explosive, hyperactive, fast-twitch predatory play. You know, right after they bat your water glass off the table. They are the biological spark plugs applying the exact torque that powers the system.
Section 5. Multiverse Whiskers, the 24-node somatosensory array.
A cat doesn't just feel its way through a dark hallway, it calculates it. They're equipped with exactly 24 highly sensitive mechanoreceptor vibrissae. We just call them whiskers. They are embedded perfectly symmetrically on their face, 12 on the left, 12 on the right.
Here is how this array works. First, these 24 nodes act like a totally external nervous system, extending out to physically test the 3D spatial geometry of an opening. Then, mechanoreceptors at the base of the follicles translate the absolute slightest air currents and physical friction straight into electrical data. Finally, the feline brain just bypasses the eyes altogether to render a flawless 12-dimensional toroidal map of their surroundings. They're constantly running these localized dimensional phase alignments, feeling out the exact boundary of the physical render in real time.
And that brings us to Section 6, the feline furious point, the sovereign pilot of the render.
According to our cosmology sources, dimension 0 is known as the furious point. Imagine a singularity experiencing a massive ontological crisis, a cosmic identity crisis, basically. It's simultaneously nothing, because it has 0 dimensions, and everything, because it's literally the only thing that exists. So to prove it exists, it spins frantically at infinite RPMs, generating the structural torque of all physical reality.
And the text directly connects this macro 12-dimensional cosmology right down to the biological entity. We are the sovereign pilot applying the torque. We are the zero-deed singularity finally finding a way to experience its own volume. The universe didn't just build this massive 12-dimensional structure. It took that singularity and wrapped it in a biological suit so it could finally experience its own breath from the inside out.
So, what is the big takeaway from this system audit? It's that the cat.exe operating system is the ultimate localized source node, and it's been hiding in plain sight this whole time. That little purring animal on your rug? It's the biological spark plug. It anchors the perfect stillness of the 9 and unleashes the chaotic torque of the 6. It sees the flashing code of the universe through UVA-flooded lenses, and it maps the geometry of space with 24 perfect external nodes.
Which leaves us with one final, undeniable question. If your cat is the lion-faced sovereign pilot, if it is the literal, biological hardware actually running the 12-dimensional cosmic simulation, who exactly is domesticating whom? Just think about that the next time they inexplicably demand you open a can of food at 4 a.m. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the render.